Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. This,
Absolutely. I was gonna say I'm excited, but Anthony is like double, triple excited. He's been walking around since I think last
yeah,
Thursday talking about this episode. So Anthony and I are both
Woohoo.
excited to have you, Matt.
That is
And
awesome.
we're excited to introduce you to kind of what you're doing to our listeners. And so we're just gonna kick it straight off. How does that sound, Matt?
Awesome. Sounds
Awesome.
unreal. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah.
Perfect. This is a niche that you're located in. Tell us how you kind of got started in this niche here, Matt.
Yeah. So I guess like a lot of your listeners, well, actually, no, I'll go back. We've done things quite differently initially. So most people trying to generate wealth will do it through real estate or shares and through their job. My wife and I have always done it through buying and selling businesses. So we started out in bricks and mortar businesses, buying and we built up a little manufacturing business into a big business. And we loved it so much. And we read all those books like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it really influenced us back. And we had some private mentors back in those days. And we loved it so much. But as young entrepreneurs, what we found was the problem with bricks and mortar businesses, and it'll be the same in America. Obviously, hopefully people can tell from my accent.
Yeah.
We're here in Australia. I should mention that to all your listeners. It's really hard, bricks and mortar businesses with the banks, because we had all our net worth tied up typically in a warehouse somewhere and in physical inventory. So we were always looking for, I guess, a way to make it more passive, but also, like from Robert Kiyosaki's ideas, we realized we're still tied to the business, and particularly financially. So what we started to do was look around for alternative business models, and we hung out with lots of business owners trying to figure out the best business model. And this is then when the internet started to come along. And my wife, who's a real go-getter, and I'm the patient one. She doesn't mind me saying this, by the way. She's really impatient and very, very smart with business as well. And she just said to me one day, "Hey, Matt, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we start buying and selling websites, rather
Mhm.
just do exactly what we did with physical bricks and mortar businesses, but do it with websites, because you don't need as much money. You don't need you need a fraction of the amount of money to get similar cash flow returns, because you don't use physical inventory." And so that's what we did. We started buying and selling websites. It worked extremely well. So we just applied the same strategies to that kind of an idea, and it worked really well. And that's what I want to, share with you guys today, kind of some insights into, because people hear about buying and selling websites, and next thing it's like, oh wow, hang on, what does that mean? What does that involve?
We
Now, Matt, I just want to be clear. You'd mentioned that you're in Australia. This works worldwide, right? So most of the listeners,
Absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So for your listeners' sakes, when we started this, and even to this day, honestly, I'd say 90% of the websites that we buy are all US based. So because the US is still to this day the best market for everything, basically, but it's just the volumes there, and that's because you've got so many people on the internet. The US is actually the best place to do this.
Okay, Matt, you kind of alluded to some of the big questions, so I want to kind of get started with this. But how does someone get started, kind of buying websites? Where do they go? How do they get started?
Well, when we started, there was no marketplace for them. There was no brokers for them, because we started this back before the GFC, like back in 2008. These days, the good news is there's heaps of marketplaces for buying and selling websites. It's a much more mature market now. And you can go to places like Flipper or Empire Flippers or Quiet Light or what's the other one? FE International. They're probably the big four, and they're all US based, except for Flipper, which is the world's biggest market. But I've got to say, a little bit of rivalry here. Flipper is an Aussie based company, and it's the world's biggest marketplace for buying and selling websites. And you can do it at any level with these websites, but go the Aussies. Because it's all virtual, you can buy and sell websites from anywhere. So you can go to any of these marketplaces. But the first thing you've got to do, I think, Cameron, what's really important is, and this is what we love doing, is obviously no one, probably before you've listened to this podcast, you may never even realize you could buy and sell websites. You need to understand basically how they work and what you're looking to buy. Because I think one of the important things that people don't realize is they hear us saying we buy and sell websites, and they automatically think e-commerce sites with buying and selling of products and things. And Cameron, to really answer your question, as a beginner, we don't advise you go into that space because it is complex. It involves this thing called physical inventory, which Liz and I have always wanted to get away from, because anything to do with physical inventory, I'm telling you, if you're getting into business, I've got a lot of experience in business, bought and sold heaps. We don't advise it for beginners because it's very complex. So if you're just getting started, I think one of the things you want to look at is the sorts of sites that you might want to start playing with and buying are what we called advertising or affiliate sites. They literally just make money off advertising. So they're a lot more passive and they're really good for beginners. And the other good news is you can buy them quite small. You can buy simple little sites under, a couple of $1,000s just to learn on.
Okay, so you buy this site for a couple thousand. We're jumping some steps because I'm sure you got.
Yeah, we are jumping a lot of steps. Yeah,
right. You got to do your due diligence and learn how to do this, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to discount that. How is a website making money?
That's an awesome question, Anthony. That's the number one question we get asked, Well, no, they're both awesome. You've asked awesome. Both of you have asked awesome questions so far. Don't worry.
Who's the most awesomest? But
well, it's the one that even our personal mentors who we've had throughout our journey, they look at Liz and I now and go, and they ask exactly that same question. And these are guys who are worth tens of millions of dollars. And they will say to us, how the hell are you two making money off these websites? If it's not e-commerce, what are you doing? And I think the best way to answer it is we make money. It's like a billboard. That's how we liken it to. So, when you're renting out space to advertisers. So what we do is we create websites that answer questions that actually help people. So it might be a website about how to get financially free, and you get lots of people coming to it. And just like a billboard, it's passive. People see the ads sitting on there. And so what they do is we get paid for putting ads on our websites. So it's like the good old days of print media magazines. We saw this starting to happen here in Australia, 20 odd years ago. Print media magazines and local newspapers and things started disappearing, and they're being replaced by the internet. And we realized, well, we can now, it costs you next to nothing to set up a website when you know what you're doing, or better still, you go and buy one that's already got all the traffic. So we become like our own little media magnates. We have these little websites, and they're just quite niche. It's super niche websites. And when people land on there, if they click on an ad, we get paid, or we get what's called an affiliate commission. So you can put affiliate links on there. It's very normal. Once you know what you're doing, it's really simple to set up.
Once you have this website, so I'm assuming you're going to need new content.
Yep.
To keep. So tell us a little bit more. How do we get that done?
So everything we do is leveraged time-wise. So I'm not good at writing. It's not my strong point. Liz, my wife, she's really good at writing, but even for her, it's not worth writing the article. So we outsource all that. So these days, and it's really good. There's a lot of work at home mums now, and we hire writers all from the US. Most of them are from the US, and we go to platforms like Upwork.com or Fiverr. Some of your listeners might have heard of those. And literally we outsource all the content. So we give them the directions of, what we want on the website, and then we outsource that. So I could share an example. One of our clients, Lisa, she's a stay-at-home mum here in Australia, and she would probably be like your typical listener. She's traditionally, her and her husband have made wealth through real estate here in Australia, and they've been very successful. So she doesn't have to work. So she found out about us, learned with us how to do this, and she bought a site. She bought 2 sites to learn on, around $2,000. And she just figured out, her kids are grown up, and she was having fun with this. And she figured out how to get traffic to a site. And what she did, she bought a site for $2,000. She spent about, I think, $2,500 on getting content written. And she got that site up to making about $1,000 a month. And she went, wow, this is working really well. And that was off affiliate commissions, promoting affiliate products. And then what she had an exercise site that was talking about exercise equipment that she bought for $2,000. And I kept saying to her, that's actually a really good site. It's going to go really well if you apply the same process. And literally so all it just talked about, what's the best exercise equipment to use and things like that. And she's not into exercise at all. So she had to outsource all the articles. And of course, when COVID came along, she got a nice boost on that site. And it started to make, even before COVID, she got it up to making $5,000 a month. During COVID, it started making $30,000 a month. This is net. It's off a $2,000 website buy. And one of the world's top website brokers was at one of our conferences, and he saw it and said to her, if you let me sell that, I'll get you $1 million for that thing next week. And because it's such a popular niche, the health niche is huge. And so now it's come back down in terms of revenue. I think it averages now anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000. This is US dollars. But that's all she does is she's got 2 writers, and she's a work at home mum. Like, she does this full time now. But her writers are in the US, and they just put articles on here, a couple of articles a week, and she's making 15 to 20 grand. Now, that's taken her quite a few years to build that up, but that's a nice semi-passive business. I think that's kind of the perfect model, in my opinion, for the perfect business, because it's not fully passive, but it's semi-passive, but the ROI, the cash returns are massive, absolutely massive.
Now, I know, so if I'm looking to buy something, I'm sure a lot of people, first thing they're going to do is they're going to Google for reviews and information. So, and I know sometimes when I'm doing that search, or even sometimes it's how to do something, right?
Yep.
I'm looking for, I have a problem. I'm either looking for a product or I need advice on how to do something. And I notice when I do these searches, it's not like I'm not getting typically URL that I know. It's not like it's going to be like Time Magazine or Forbes. I mean, a lot of times it's going to be something I really haven't heard of. But I know when I look in there, they're kind of having reviews and advice. And then I do see in there, hey, we do have affiliate links. We maybe receive a commission if you buy something. So is that similar what you're talking about?
That's exactly what we're talking about. So, and I think this is what I want your listeners to realize. Most people don't realize that this opportunity is right in front of them every single day of the week. You think about it in your lunch break when you're looking up exactly what you said, Anthony. You're looking up for advice on how to do something, and you go to those websites, and when you see that little disclaimer at the bottom that says we may earn an affiliate commission, there's a very high chance that website, particularly if it's ranking highly in Google, is making 6 figures, or making that owner a significant side hustle income. These sites can be way bigger than what you realize. And the other funny thing is, like, I think back to Lisa, when these sites are pretty ugly. They're not particularly good. They're not really pretty flash looking sites. They're just the most innocuous thing. You would have no idea how much money some of these sites make. And that's exactly what you're looking for, though, what you just said there. They're the sorts of sites we're buying and selling.
So when you said,
and by the way, so there's big corporate private equity firms buying these now too for millions of dollars, because they're so valuable now. Those assets, that's the other beautiful thing. It's like buying a rundown house in the right street. Remember, that's the old strategy. Well, here in Australia, and I'm sure it's the same. It's exactly the same everywhere. You look for that simple rundown house in the best neighborhood that you just give a lick of paint to, and a light makeover. That's the gold. When you can find that. And the good thing with websites is there's heaps of websites out there like that. People just neglect them. They forget them. They don't realize the value of the asset. So we come along, do a makeover, and we can either flip them, which we don't recommend. You keep for the cash flow. Like Warren Buffett says, you let them compound. But that's the beautiful thing that's the next level on this strategy, which we love.
That's what I was going to ask. I heard you referenced 2 things there: buy and build. And it sounded like Lisa was building one, but you also had an opportunity to sell it to somebody. What Yeah, what's the best opportunity there?
I'm biased because we read everything about Warren Buffett and Robert Kiyosaki, and we like the idea of compounding because the ROI is long term. So we're lucky. We've owned websites now for more than a decade, and when we look at how much money they make, so we've got this simple little website about pigeon racing, right? It's super niche.
Yeah.
And we bought it for $7,000. I think Liz bought it many years ago for $7,000. And it only doesn't sound much, like $1,000 a month, right? Does not sound very much money. So it'd be tempting to fix that up. Because when you know what you're doing, you can double the revenues pretty easily. And it doesn't sound much, $1,000 a month, but you compound that over, a decade, or that's a lot of money. It's better than $7,000 sitting in the bank. So we're all about compounding. But in answer to your question, Cameron, if you're really good at this, it is a very leveraged way to flip your way up in terms of wealth. If you have a big goal, if you've got the big multi-million-dollar goal in life, especially we meet entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who want to do the big sellout for millions of dollars. That was us once upon a time. But we've realized compounding's worked really, really well for us. So but if you do have that big goal of doing a big multi-million-dollar sellout, what we would recommend is you think about flipping websites. So, and that is where you buy a website for $20,000, you double it over a period of, it takes about 12 to 18 months. And I know I'm making this sound really easy, but you can do this, and it's way easier than with bricks and mortar businesses because you don't have to put in as much capital. And then you sell it because the price gets exponential. The more profits you make, the higher sale price, and then you roll that money into successively bigger deals. And we've got an example where this young guy did exactly that, where he started out with a $7,000 website, built it up, sold it for $20,000. So he learned how to do it. And then he kept, just rolled it into bigger deals. And within 5 years, this was through one of the website brokers shared the details of this. Within 5 years, he'd flipped that initial $7,000 into a $9 million website sale because he got so good at it. So he just kept flipping. Now we don't, that's not normal. We don't recommend for most of our listeners, they're trying to do this part-time and transition out of their careers. But flipping websites is a very powerful strategy because you don't need as much capital. He started out with nothing. So, and what that means is basically, in essence, buy a website, do a quick makeover, and sell it pretty quickly within, say, a year, and roll the money into bigger and better deals.
I mean, it's kind of like people are flipping real estate, and we're just flipping a URL.
Yeah, flipping a URL.
Yeah. How much should somebody have, right? Is it 5,000 or 7,000 to buy the website, and then what kind of capital does it cost to flip it, right? To put into that over the next 12 to 18 months.
Obviously, the more money you have, the quicker you can go with this. Like anything in life, you need leverage on two things: time and money. So what we recommend, so we cater for, we understand people listening to this are at all different situations in their lives. If you've got more money, it means you can do it more leverage. So you can outsource a lot more, and you can get more writers on board to generate more content and to build the website asset up more. But also what a lot of our clients do is they do it more semi-passively because they're working, these days people are working 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks here, high performing type people they need more leverage. So they can use their incomes to generate more leverage that way. Or if you've got not as much money, you can do a lot of this stuff yourself. That's the other good thing with this. So once you know what you're doing, you can be putting in more time. But in typical costs for renovating websites, it just varies on a scale of, how big a site. So when you buy a learner site, say under $10,000, you would need to be investing, ideally, if you really, it depends on what your goal is. Do you want to flip that and make a lot of money a bit quicker? we would recommend then you'd post 1 to 2 articles a week. And your average article cost these days is in US dollars is anywhere from $30 to $60, maybe up to $100 for an article. So that grows it. But what you got to remember, this is not like a manufacturing business where you've got, a 50% GP or whatever, and you're not getting, net, you're only making 10 to 30% on if you're lucky, out of a manufacturing business. On these businesses, you're getting 80% returns. So all the profit that you are making, you can recycle back into that content and it can compound. So if you're happy to not pull money out of the investment, you can literally spend all your profit on new content and it just feeds itself and it becomes a flywheel. It becomes massive. And that's how you can speed it up.
Now, so are these producing cash flow from day one?
Yes, if you buy them. If you build them, no. If you build them, it does take time. It's an investment. So that's another strategy in itself that we teach and we're really keen on. And we've got friends who we hang out in a community where people are doing this all the time. So one of the big strategies these days, because it is, if you've got a long-term view, because this marketplace is so valuable now, we're highly recommending people passively build up sites from scratch in the background. Why? Because you can. It's not like a bricks and mortar business. You can literally start a website, have a team working on it in the background. You don't have to be there every day. You don't even have to turn up to it, once a week or anything like that. It might be once a month that you work on it. So it's an ideal way to build valuable assets for the future in the background. So that is another strategy that's very powerful, is to start websites from scratch and have them building up passively in the background over a 2 to 5 year time horizon. And we do that ourselves. That's one of our favorite. We kind of divide it between opportunistically buying the renovators, the sites that we can find to fix up, or we don't sit around waiting for the perfect deal. We will create websites from scratch as well. And a lot of our clients are doing that. It's a very, very smart strategy.
Matt, what kind of technical expertise or skill is needed?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Cameron. So in the good old days,
question earlier, huh?
Oh man, now this is a topic that is my favorite thing, because the reason I'm not good with computers, I am now. Obviously, been doing this for over a decade, but Liz and I originally struggled a lot with that, and we know where people are coming from, and we actually put it off for a couple of years when we first started learning about this. We actually put it off for years because it was so difficult to build websites. These days, it's a lot easier. There's still technical stuff though. But we specialize in training total beginners. That's our thing. That's why, because we're so passionate about it, we teach people the technical side, and it is a lot more click and drag these days. Now there is a lot to learn though, in terms of, it's not so much the technical side, because you can outsource that really easily. Again, you can go to Upwork, you can find web developers for, $10 an hour, $30 an hour. You can build a website for a couple of $100. It's pretty easy. And we like to teach our clients to do it themselves. It's one of the big buzzes they get. You get a 50-year-old who's, an ex-lawyer or something like that. And he emails you and goes, man, I just built a website. I can't believe, I'm used to being a lawyer or whatever their profession is. And it is very empowering. It's one of the number one digital skills we would love to see people do, because there is no downside to learning how to build a website, and you can learn how to do it yourself. It is more click and drag. What the main skill you want to learn is how websites work, how they make money, and how you get traffic to them. So it's not strictly a technical skill, I guess. See, the technical stuff you can easily overcome. That's what we're good at teaching. It's mainly, just if any of your listeners are interested, we mainly use what's called WordPress websites. So they're the industry standard. They're really easy to work on. There's heaps of free, videos on how to set up a WordPress site. It's the strategy behind it that you want to learn. So I'm going to bring it back to what Anthony said earlier. It's combined with, sorry, Cameron, but it is, Anthony did touch on something. It's more the whole picture, like understanding how websites work, how they make money, but also due diligence, website due diligence. That's probably the main skill.
Now, what I'm hearing is I could see how I could see how a college student, or somebody in their early 20s or even late teens, do you have any success with the younger kids on this?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good. Bring it back to what Cameron said. They do pick up the full-on technical side like that.
Mhm.
So we have quite a few teens come along with their parents to our courses, right? And they don't want to listen to us oldies talk about ROIs and passive investing and stuff. But when they see us build a website, they pick it up real quick because they've grown up with computers. So they're not scared to click and move and drag things around. And we've got a number of them now who've originally kind of got dragged along by mum and dad to listen to Matt and Liz talk about these websites. And now this is what they do full time. They've either skipped university or gone through uni, but done this part-time in the background, and they can pick up the website building bit, the actual full-on technical bit like that. We just had a young guy, Jack. He's actually one of our coaches as well. We ran a boot camp the other day, and went for 90 minutes, and I threw down a challenge to everyone to build a website within the next 10 days. So this guy, he's a millennial. He's like, 22 years old, 23. Within 45 minutes, he had built the website before the next break. And it was about hiking, hiking in America. And here he is in Australia. He lives in Australia, in the wine country and stuff. He's got nothing to do with hiking in America. And everyone was gobsmacked. Everyone was just going, how the hell did you do that in 45? And it looked stunning. It was just like this amazing site. He had a pseudonym name on there, and he was called Mike on this website, and he's from Montana or something like that. And
Montana Mike.
5 minutes, and we're all just gobsmacked, going, man, you put us all to shame. Here I am saying, for most of us in this age group, you should only be doing it. You should be able to build a website within 10 days.
Now, when we do one of these podcast interviews, we've been live streaming them on YouTube and Facebook. So if you are there watching the live stream and you have questions for Matt or Cameron about hair care, put them in the comments, right? You have an opportunity to get this free advice or free hair care advice. And if you're listening on this, listening on the podcast in your car, you're like, man, I don't want to miss the next one. Well, we recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get a little nudge every time that we have one coming up.
Hey, and Cameron,
yes,
mate, that would be the perfect website. In all seriousness, a hair care advice site. So you would be a legend at it. Look at it. Guys would just go, I want to learn off Cameron what's the best hair care product, right? You're in that age group.
Wow.
I'm being serious.
And actually, I think a compliment. But I'm going to count it as a zinger. So you got one. I'm going to count it as one.
Matt, I actually like the idea.
See, you could build this passively. See, that's what we call a passion site because you're passionate about it. They're the most valuable sites. And you could sell it out to a corporate in 5 to 10 years' time. And also in the meantime, this is how websites work, right? So you have a passion. Let's use that as an example. If I was a coach, I'd be telling you, Cameron, mate, you're a legend with hair care. You're like the perfect model for it as well. Guys are going to listen to you. You've got the authoritative voice, everything. You could start a simple site in the background, get some outsourcers once a month, post a bit of content, stick some pictures on there, interview people, and talk about the best hair care products as well. And you could get direct advertisers. You get L'Oreal and whatever advertising on there, and they'll pay you.
Okay, you can sell us to Paul Mitchell later. But to be honest, we're kind of having fun. But honestly,
great idea.
I'm serious.
This is a prime example of building something of what you're passionate about. No, I know, but I'm serious. This is this is what we should be doing. This is a great example.
I'm actually, in all seriousness, it's funny. Liz, last night, we were watching, what's the new Netflix show? And she just turned to me and said, see, Matt, skincare and health and beauty products are one of the best niches online. And people think like here we are laughing about this, but in all seriousness, I bet you I'll put money on it. If you look at, there's a simple, quick thing. We teach this thing called keyword research, but one of the free tools we use is called Google Trends. I bet you if you looked on Google Trends, hair care would be what we call an evergreen market, particularly for men. So this is how we do it. We love these. The more I think about it, I might go and research it myself. Yeah, but that's the sort of thinking you want. So not just beauty, that's too big. You'll never rank it for that. We would look around and go, okay, let's bring it down to hair care for men. Hair care for men over. So you look way too young, Cameron. So let's just bump it up. That's where it's going to be unrealistic, right? Hair care for men over 40, something like that. And
I'm taking
you
one
look
away.
younger than that. There you go. I'm just
away.
giving you a compliment. You look younger than that, but pretend you're over 40, right? And
I am. I'm 43.
Well, there you go. So, but I bet you that's a really good marketplace to build websites. And what if you're listening to this? Be thinking when you're out there online, you don't realize. I think actually Robert Kiyosaki's got a really good quote. Most people don't realize the opportunities out there in front of them every single day. And that's what Robert Kiyosaki is really passionate about teaching people. Looking at the humble dry cleaner, can make you really good passive income. Seriously, the humble website about hair care products for men over the age of 40, I'll guarantee you that could make you money long term. Because you think about it, commercial wise, it's going to be a walk in the park. If you had lots of traffic to that website, like visitors interested in that, the golden way we make money online is by helping people, giving them good advice. And so all the corporates, they'll see you have a very niche market. No one else is coming to that website unless they're interested in hair care for men, right? So that's the golden advertising opportunity. So a big thing I think we're going to see over the coming years is corporates will recognize that and they'll pay you lots of money to advertise on there.
Okay, Matt, to continue down that there, right, is what would be the next step, right? So maybe we've got this idea that we're kicking around, but maybe somebody out there has their own specific idea and they're like, hey, I would like to take a next step forward. What should someone do?
Keyword research. And that's the fun part. So here we are joking about this, but I bet you it gets even more fun. And maybe Anthony will be going, oh man, okay, I should get into hair care myself. I should start listening to Cameron for because in all seriousness, no matter what your idea is, if it's, if you're into golf or playing guitar or whatever, the best sites are where you're teaching people something. And like Anthony said, or you're helping them find an answer or you're helping to do something. And so the next step, when you have these ideas, particularly if you've got a passion, like hair care, it's a funny passion, by the way, Cameron, but it's actually a good money-making one because it is a good marketplace. But what you do is you do keyword research to make sure it's commercially viable online, which hair care would be, by the way. I just know it would be. But you would do research around that. And then you'd also do research around how much traffic could I potentially get to the website. And then you do research around who else is doing something in this space. And that's when the fun really starts, because it's a lot of fun to sit there. And I know this sounds funny to your listeners, but it is actually a lot of fun to sit there and research something like hair care products or, pigeon racing or learning how to play guitar or whatever it is. These weird and wonderful kind of passion niches are often the best because that's how we can beat the big guys. That's what you got to remember here too. We're competitive, right? My wife and I are very, as are all our listeners. I'm sure anyone listening to this, by your very nature, my guess is anyone listening to this podcast is an ultra high achiever or high achiever, and you're going to be competitive. And what we love about this space is finding these cool little, we call them micro niches, because the big corporates can't be bothered going for those. And so what they do is they buy you out though later on down the track. So if you're competitive, that's the fun part, is doing the research and figuring out how can I either buy or build a website to kind of go underneath the big corporates and help someone that's looking for a specific answer within that niche. And that's literally the next step. It's what we call keyword research or market research. And then the fun starts. Then you just build the website and off you go. That bit's easy. That bit's the easy bit.
Well, what about finding the advertisers?
See, I take this for granted. For me, that's all automated. That bit's definitely a walk in the park. When you first start out, you use the automated platforms like the main one is Google Ads. So you partner with Google. It's totally
Oh,
free.
okay.
And basically, they just give you a bit of code, which your techie sticks onto your website, and you get ads automatically served. We don't even think about that. That's where you would start. That's kind of 101. That's very simple to implement.
Now, I know we're comparing this a lot to real estate, or even if you're buying a business in the United States, oftentimes it'll go through what we call like a title company, where like a third party kind of handles the deed and then get the money. They're like the in between to make sure all the criteria is met before they pass over the title and then give the other person the money. How do we protect ourselves when we're buying an asset like this, buying a URL?
Okay, yeah, that's a really smart question. Actually, again, I take this for granted because we've been buying and selling for so long. The good thing, what we enjoy about websites is they're very, very easy to move around because it's just a domain name, and you can transfer the domain name yourself within like 10, 15 minutes. So what it means is you can easily move it in between structures if you want for asset protection. And that can work very effectively. In terms of when you're buying these assets though, you don't use a traditional lawyer as such. We teach you how to do it yourself. Most people we know would do it themselves, except once you're up into the multi-million-dollar deals, then you would use a lawyer. But there's lots of services around, but the best one is called escrow.com. Basically, I think that works like what you're talking about, Anthony, where both buyer and seller agree. Say you're selling a website for $10,000. You put your money, you go to escrow.com. It's it's the industry standard. You put your money in their bank account, and the money doesn't transfer to the seller until the domain name's transferred over. And you agree to a set of terms, and it's just check boxes. We've used them for years. They're really good. The good news is though, if you buy a website through a website broker like Flipper or Empire Flippers or QuietLight or any of those guys, they act as the intermediary. They have their own escrow services, and these are big. Okay. These guys are doing 8 and 9 figure deals. They're very well established. So they will act as the escrow service themselves. So basically, once everything lines up, the broker will say, all right, we're about to release the money now, and you own the new website, the domain name and the website, and seller, you get the money, and it just transfers over. That bit's really, really is very secure now.
Okay, perfect. Well, so Matt, you have some great ideas here about these passion sites for Cameron, which I'm sure he's going to go Google here in a minute.
Yeah.
But Matt, how do you guys help?
Awesome. See, is that the best question of the podcast, or what? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Second best.
Thank you, Anthony. Our passion is teaching beginners to do this properly, because we remember how challenging it was at the beginning, because we had no idea how do you buy and sell websites. So what we do is we teach beginners, particularly professionals trying to transition from their jobs, how to do this so that they can quit their jobs or transition over a period of time, like over a period of a year or two. And we run courses, or we have a masterclass. If anyone's interested, we have it's free, a 90-minute masterclass where we just run through the whole strategy, and we show actual examples of websites, how you can buy and sell them. And then our specialty is, like I said, teaching beginners how to do this. So we teach the whole thing, how to do website due diligence, because there's a lot to that. And we also teach the specific kind of sites that you want to be looking at buying and how you might set it up as a portfolio. So our background is, we believe in diversification for safety. So we don't just own one website. We want people to ideally own a portfolio, just like real estate. You want to own about 5 to 10 websites that generate you semi-passive income. So that's what we teach people to do. So you can just go to our website and find out about us.
I don't know if we touched on just this, the amount of time. So if somebody does create a portfolio of 5 to 10 websites, how much time does that take a month to manage typically?
Yeah, 5 or 10 is typically, you've quit your job at that point, because you're probably making some really good money out of that. And that would, that's the goal. For most of our audience members, they want to quit their job. To run 5 or 10 websites these days would take a bit more time than what it used to in the past, because you're managing multiple writers and stuff like that. To own 1 to 5 websites, though, you can still work a full-time job, no worries. That's where typically most websites, when you're learning, you're putting in more time, of course, and you should be working on it. It's like studying part-time. Probably should work on it once a week. Once you've got a portfolio of sites set up and you've got a team helping you to run them, it can be part-time, but if you want to make the big money, that's like, I'm talking 6 or 7 figures. If you want to make millions out of this, you would be doing a portfolio full-time. So the answer is, it depends what your goal is. Websites are not full-time though. You don't have to turn up 9 to 5 or anything like that. But 1 or 2 websites, you can easily get away with working on once a month or once a week.
Tim, I did have a question. I mean, I tell you, I like everything that you're talking about. It sounds like you and your wife have been doing this for a while and had success on your own. Why take this time to teach others? Like,
awesome.
I mean, if you kind of have some passive income over here, this is much more active. I always like to know why.
Yep. Awesome question. So we were meant to be semi-retired 10 years ago or whatever. And the main thing that we saw we have a lot of personal mentors who are very successful here in Australia, buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses. And they're all tend to be 10 to 20 years older than Liz and I. And we've helped them acquire lots of businesses. And Anthony, to answer your question, the number one bit of advice they all gave us, or normally it was their wives, that would say, get him out of the house, Matt, go and find him a business. He's annoying me, like he's bored, whatever. And I think as you get success in business, you can't sit around when you're a high achiever doing nothing. There's only, one of our mentors said to us, there's only so much golf you can play, Matt, and find me a business. And so we've always stayed active, and we genuinely love teaching this stuff. And we obviously, this is a full business. We've been doing this, teaching people for a long time. It started out as a passion, a little passion business for us, what we do here at the E-Business Institute, helping beginners. We just started helping out a select group, and it's turned into something a lot bigger over the years, which turns out we just love doing. So I'm out of semi-retirement and I do this now full time, teaching people how to do this. And it's actually, we just love doing it. And we're still buying and selling. We get so, when you think about it, think of the advantages of what we get. We get to know all the world's best website brokers. We have this big community of people out there. We see some of the best website deals you would ever see. So that's the other big advantage. The networking through what we do here is absolutely phenomenal for us as well. So that's another big thing that we teach, is networking, super important. So it has, for us, people do ask us, why the hell are you teaching this? I have no interest now in retiring. I've got a second win in life. The kids are nearly grown up. You know, they're ready to do their own things. So I just love what I'm doing here.
Matt, if somebody's listening and they have their micro niche or their passion project, what should they do? How can they reach out to you?
Go and see our website, ebusinessinstitute.com.au. And whilst it looks like, obviously we're Aussies, we do have a lot of US community members now as well. But I would recommend, have a look around on our website and go through look at some of the success stories and just start learning how this all works, and do our free masterclass, because we actually go through the strategy of how we buy, renovate, and sell websites. Start educating yourself on how these websites work and get an understanding of how they make money, because you're probably new to this. Don't rush out there and buy a website straight away, because that would be silly if you've never done, if you've never bought a business, let alone a website. But the good news is, start learning how it works. And then my other bit of advice is, if you do want to get into this, start small. Just buy a small website under $2,000 and have a play with it and see if you like it, which you will, because it's very creative. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, plug for us, visit our website or look up Matt and Liz Raad.
Perfect, Matt. We'll make sure that we have those links in the show notes so that our listeners can reach out to you. Matt, thanks again. This is, we're approaching 45 minutes, but a ton of great information. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you guys have got, so Cameron, I want to see you start a website in Palme, be the world's leading expert besides being an awesome legend at teaching people about creating wealth in their life, imagine having that on your resume in life, rocking chair test, look back at your life and go, yep, I own the world's #1 site on Palme products.
Matt, I just want to be clear. Paul Mitchell and hair products is not a passion of mine, unfortunately. Just Anthony makes fun of me for it.
He's stirring you for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Make it a passion. Well, here's a question for you. Would it become a passion if you made, I don't know, $100,000 or $10,000 a month out of it?
Absolutely. I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I love the idea, Matt. I'm gonna check out the website, go to the master class, and then we'll have nice little website up and going.
You could be just like Montana Mike, who actually lives in Australia, right? And you could do your Paul Mitchell products. Matt, thanks a lot. Really had a good time.
Thanks so much, guys.
Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Okay. We get a comment in, but he kind of came in.